Well, be safe from the alligators and armadillos, and I appreciate everything you're doing. And we will talk to you next time. Hey, I'm Randy. You're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Today we have two very special guests, Gino and Sherry, or is it Sherry and Gino?
Just soft G.
Soft G. Geshelli Labs. I am really excited to have you guys on because we got a chance to talk at Expona. Actually, one of my favorite things in the world is right back there. That is a J2 DAC, which I love. One of my favorite DACs. And I just want to talk to you guys a little bit because Gino, you guys had a chance to come over and talk to a bunch of the patrons, and we ended up having a great conversation about USB and some optical stuff and the history of Geshelli. Like, it was too important not to share with everybody that wanted to watch it. So why don't you take me through just a brief history of how you all got started with Geshelli?
Oh, you're always that one.
I'm always that one. So back in, I think it was 2016, he started just messing around, making his own audio components. And I was like, why are you doing this? And he told me back when he was a kid, did
you slap it off the desk and then stomp on it and say, don't ever
do
that again?
It was wonderful because I never get to watch TV. So okay. he was like busy and I could sit and watch all the movies I haven't gotten to see. But when he was a kid, he grew up like super poor and like cans with the animal product, like a pig on the can. And that was like the fruit. Well, I mean, it was like super poor. He couldn't have anything. You should start answering this to yourself if you don't want me to tell stories. So he used to make his own.
Were you eating dog food as a child, Gino?
Oh, yeah. Geez, my dad's going to my mom and dad are going to get mad.
Okay, you tell the story.
No,
then.
you go ahead.
I like the canned pig on the can. Anyway, so he made his own video equipment, right? Your own video machines and gaming system.
Oh yeah, yes.
Because
you made your own gaming system.
Yeah, we used to make arcade machines. So back when Maine, early days of Maine, yeah, I made basically just a big arcade machine, cut out of wood and everything, and spent like years and years like saving up for parts. So you can, it was a big giant arcade machine at the end of the day. It took like years to assemble. Did
you just have like Star Wars figures that you would position, or was it an actual video game?
An actual MAME. So MAME, the arcade machine simulator.
Okay.
So you can play like all kinds of stuff, old school Donkey Kong, Simpsons, and yeah, so you could run it on a computer and then put a TV, like hook it up to a TV and everything, and actually like you can buy all the arcade machine parts. So I used to save up and buy like all the different parts, and then like I said, like
how old were you, man?
This was later in when I did that was my teenage years, probably later teenage years of that time.
So you're building arcade machines as a teenager.
It was a thing back then. It was just a thing that people would do. Seriously,
he was the only people that I knew that.
Well, yeah, when I was a teenager, I was chasing girls and playing football, so I wasn't building any.
I was like the nerdy one in the family. My brother and sister were the hardcore city kids. So
you put together some audio equipment.
Yeah. So later on, so when I was kind of in the beginning of my career, I met up with a buddy of mine. It was actually a guy who was my mentor, Mike Z. I remember it was like the first day of work, and I had no idea what was going on, and he catches me outside, go to my car, and he's like, "Hey, do you like MP3s?" And so this is like year like 2000, 2001 or something like that.
Yeah.
And remember back then, like MP3s weren't like, yeah. So, no, I was gonna say, like, yeah, everybody, they were like huge, but it was like you still kind of need like a cable modem, you know what I mean? And in my city, it wasn't a big thing because cable modems weren't big yet. Really, people weren't like hugely networked in the city like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how that started. And, my dad being a musician and me kind of being a, musician, um, always kind of into music, but, again, never could like really afford to get in that hi-fi world, where people had the crazy headphones and yeah, so my buddy's like, hey, like you interested in MP3s and this and that, and we were talking about, this guy was like a genius electrical engineer, and he's like, let's look at designing this MP3 player, and we never kind of made it, but we always would talk about it, and from that point was when we kind of got into like in my career I got into USB audio. I had to for my career,
Yeah.
but yeah, so as time went on, it's still always in the back of my head, you never could, as a kid, I never could afford really big stereo systems and things like that. The kid down the street would always have them, but his dad would have them, but you couldn't touch them.
Yeah. So what'd you make? What was the first thing you made?
So the first thing I actually made, despite like little amplifiers, like, op amp based amplifiers that are like for fun, the first legit thing I made was a DAC.
A DAC, okay.
Yeah, AKM. I mean, that was like the first hardcore thing. That was also not.
And this is before Geshelli Labs ever existed.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was like the first thing I made that was like for real, other than stuff I had to do for my career. The career was a little bit different. So in order to make a DAC, I had to. There's some whiz kids that could probably just whip them together, but it took like years of kind of knowledge and understanding how to do PCB layout and all kinds of things. So the first DAC I made was a real DAC that was, it wasn't like kind of a hand soldered. It was like a, fully laid out real beast DAC, it's a real deal.
Like the size of a pizza box or something?
No, not that big. It was probably about a pizza box, probably about this big. I don't know what size it's probably about 6 inches wide, something like that. And I was always into AKM chips, and so I said, okay, I'm going to do this for real, and lay it out, using an AKM chip. I always wanted to do that. The other thing was, at the time, there weren't many options in the AKM world that were cheap. So I just said, hey, I'm going to make something with an AKM chip. I'm going to make it cheap. But we really didn't have the plans of selling it or anything. I was just going to make it for myself.
Yeah.
And so at the time you can go get PC boards made, and you had to get 4 at a time. So I was going to make 1 or 2 DACs for myself and then sell the other 2 on eBay. That was the plan.
Nice.
And excuse me. And I ended up making it, and I let Sherry hear it, and then you're like, holy crap,
Yeah, it was amazing. And so as he's tinkering with this, I'm like, this is really, you did this? I mean, I was like,
I thought you were a big idiot, Gino. I didn't think you could do any of this.
He's done a lot of really great creative things.
Well, my wife does the same thing with me. She's like, I'm truly amazed when I do something pretty simple. But that's not simple. I mean, making a DAC's not simple.
Yeah, it was, and something that one of the catalysts, I guess, for him actually saying, okay, yes, we could sell it. Because I was like, we need to make these. Let's, new thing.
So had it not been for you, Geshelli would never exist.
That's correct.
100%. For me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because
you were like, I would have made this thing, probably like used it for a couple of days and then forgot about it. It was just like, I think the adventure of it was making it. You know what I mean? I hadn't been doing electronics for a little bit, for a couple of years. I haven't really been heavily doing it. So it was like more just a hobby thing. And I just wanted to go back and make sure like I still had the chops to do it, essentially.
Well, take me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it was really, it actually was really, it was more difficult than I thought it should have been. So like props to all these people that do this for a living.
And I've
Well-
done this to him before. I mean, he wanted this. We were tennis players, and he wanted to get a racket machine. I was like, well, you got to pay for it. So he got master certified, like the only one in our whole area. And then we started a business doing that. And then it got to be like, we'd get home from work and there'd be like 20 tennis rackets up on this. So he's used to me saying, okay, let's start a business.
I got you. So I know when we were out in Chicago, you talked about USB, and it was really fascinating to learn kind of about USB interface, because I never really thought too much about USB audio for audio. But can you kind of do a high level of what you talked about, I guess, give us the history of how you worked with USB and then the limitations of USB, and then how do you get the best out of USB if you have to connect it for audio?
Sure. So again, around the early 2000 timeframe, I'd say pretty early 2000, maybe 2000, 2001, maybe 99, somewhere around there. So I worked for a company who made what's called augmentative communication devices, which are basically, if you can't speak, you have throat issues, or if you have a disease like ALS, you would have a screen that you can touch and it would speak. So, so I did a lot of I did mostly embedded software development at that time. And for some reason, I don't remember now, but I look back and I shake my head. We decided to use USB audio. Okay. And so at that time, there wasn't a lot of USB audio options. So you have to have a what's called a USB function side. So you have to have a chip, that's going to take the USB in, and essentially it was like a DAC but had USB built into it. So there was a couple companies that made these, but they were like pretty few and far between. It wasn't like widely like a thing. So in those days, it was USB 1 days. We were doing at the time Windows CE development, so it's all embedded development. WinCE was just kind of clunky, and so we had to really dive deep into USB. So back then, I believe it was 48 kilohertz was the maximum these chips could do. That might be the max. I think you might be able to get the 96 in USB 1, but we were doing like 16-bit 44.1 or something like that. So back then, these computers were kind of, what we were making, at the time, they were pretty slow compared to what's portable nowadays. I mean, your cell phone can outrun these things by far. So,
right.
So we developed all of the USB host controller side and drivers and all that good stuff. We didn't have to do the firmware on the chip. It was all hardware based. So at the time we were kind of working with Microsoft, there wasn't a lot of help to get USB audio right. Now, I'm sure there were other companies at that time that, had it mastered. I have no idea, but at that time we were, kind of getting WinCE and stuff like that working. So, we had to do a lot of back and forth with Microsoft and their embedded team. And we were kind of cutting edge at that time with this technology. So at the time we learned to really dislike it.
Okay. All right.
Due to the design. And so it was kind of like an adaptive thing. So you got to stream the audio down. And if the machine couldn't keep up, you would start to get hiccups. Just like if you were dealing with a normal codec, you would start to get hiccups, you would get ticks, and the hardware would try to adapt, so the audio would get slow and then fast and slow. It just was a really bad process at the time. So working, I would say, a solid, year on getting that kind of perfected, we all learned to really love USB and being very cynical. Yeah. So we had some further iterations from there. We used other chips in the future. And it got a little bit better, just like anything in technology. It got a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And probably around 2007 is when we bowed out of it. I'm going to say USB 2.0 was coming out around that time. It might have been out, but we were still in the USB 1 world because we were kind of maintaining the hardware. So I got out of it at that point. and then started seeing USB 2.0 stuff coming out. DACs were starting to implement newer chips. So fast forward to Geshelli times, and we, you know, obviously had to get back into USB audio. So earlier in our DAC world, I just kept saying to Sherry, I am not touching USB audio. So I was so soured from it. I was like, I am not touching it. I hate it, you know. And again, admittingly, I wasn't versed on how much better things got, but I was just very, like I said, soured from the early days of it. And so as we started developing it, I mean, as we started kind of developing our company, we knew we had to have a USB audio solution. We were getting emails every day from people. You need USB audio, and it's understandable. You want to use your phones, your PCs, whatever. You know, not everybody has SPDIF all over the place. So we eventually looked into a couple of different solutions. Now, again, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm sure other companies, you know, I've seen other companies who develop their own, and God bless them, because that's a tough feat. You know, and I know I've read other company stories and talked to other companies just about the kind of the trouble they went through. And there's no perfect solution for USB. So now USB 2.0 has it, I would say, a little bit better, because you can kind of send data down to the chip, and then the chip can basically feedback timing if you set it up this way. So it helps you with jitter. It helps you with, you know, keeping, let's just say, like, if, you know, easy sakes, you're keeping the data streaming at a good, you know, good rate. It's timed right. You're not going to have like kind of fluctuations in the timing and things like that, where it's going to cause jitter, cause weirdnesses in the audio. And in our high def world, of course, everything has to be perfect. Everything. Right. We demand perfection, right? We have machines now that tell us we're not perfect. So, we, you know, so I kind of started doing my homework, and I saw a couple of solutions out there. I saw a lot of the companies were getting it, you know, actually pretty right. And I'm, you know, kind of looking at what they're doing, just kind of, you know, feeling it out. And that's where we found, we hooked up with the Amanero guys over in Italy. We really liked their solution, talked to them. They gave us a ton of insight on how they did it. Just really good crew over there. Shout out to Dom at Amanero. So basically, what it comes down to in USB audio, and again, just my opinion, is you want to have a solution that has a good ASIO driver background. You know, you want to be able to plug and play and it work, but you also want to have a good ASO driver solution that you can go in and stream DSD or whatever kind of other functionality. You want it to work across the board, you know, so with Mac, with Windows, with Linux. And that's where Amanero really, you know, they seem like they kind of went through the ringer and got everything tightened up. And it was a good plug-in solution for us. We really liked it. Like I said, the support was great. Like we talked before at the show, you know, they had really good clocking. Okay. So they can handle the data influx, you know, from the host controller and clock it out smoothly. So if you can usually tell if you run it on an APX, you can see if you have a lot of jitter, if you have just a lot of issues. Maybe
tell people what is an APX for folks that don't know that.
Audio Precision, company on the West Coast or on the West Coast.
I think so.
They're basically the de facto standard for audio measurements. Okay. A lot of popular websites out there will have them. It's really just a calibrated standard. They've been around for a while, and all the big wigs use these. We all agree that this is, that's the machine that's going to give you the, basically the correct measurements.
Okay.
We've played with other companies and things that have them, and tested our stuff, sent it over there. They tested it. They're very consistent machines. So if you know somebody has one, they can measure generally it's going to measure exactly the same as mine or as somebody else's over here. And that's very good for the audio community, you know, if you want to, you know, kind of validate different measurements.
Sure.
Well, it also tells you what's wrong.
Right, exactly. And we're very big proponents of using those APXs just for development. And I'm sure lots of other companies do too. We actually use it more for development than anything else and for testing. So everything that goes out the door, we have a test suite that we run on it. And we plug the DAC in, plug the amp in, and it gives you all these results. And we found how many bugs, anything from bugs in the software to just an issue
and program something.
Right. Issue in manufacturing process. We're like, oh man, you know, something's weird soldering this is, you know, it's not right. And the machine will pick it up because you can see, you know, look graphs and sine waves and all kinds of fun stuff. So.
And before we had that, if we got a return, an RMA, something was wrong, like a warranty, now we could just easily hook it up to that and we'll see, okay, yep, there is a problem. Before that, we were looking at the board, hit point by point, you know.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
So, you know, like the kind of the older school method, and we've had some different machines before that, but the APX is like by far the best machines. The APX 555, that's like the newer one.
So for folks that, so there's a lot of companies that make DACs, and so not all of them are using, you know, so is the, how do you call it? What do you say it again? Amonero?
The Amonero, the USB.
Amonero. Okay, so is that a standard? Is that a hardware? Is that what is that? So
the Amonero is a company in Italy. It's Amonero is a company, and it's called the Combo 3 something. Right now, yeah, I'm on camera now. It's hard for me to remember anything, but so we call it the Amonero USB module. He has an official name like Combo 384 or something like that. So what it is, it's a module. It's a USB module, and he makes all of the hardware.
That's a remote control, Gino.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding. I know you're.
So it's a USB module that it has a standard header on it, and you can basically, if you lay out your hardware, you can plug this down onto your board, and it gives you all USB functionality. So what it is, it's a USB to I2S converter.
Okay.
I2S is an audio standard that DAC chips, like when you hear ESS and AKM, right, they use an I2S standard. So that's how they accept information, and that's how they convert it over to analog. So generally, when you're doing a USB solution, you need to make it a USB to I2S. There's other solutions that will do USB to SPDIF. Okay. But we do USB to I2C because it'll go naturally right into the DAC, or into the DAC chip. We'll say it like that. So yeah, the Amonero is a module that you purchase. Okay. You know, and they were big in the DIY community. A lot of those guys use them just, you know, so they can have USB on their projects. But it just turned out to be an absolutely fantastic solution. So we're like, we just tell them, how many can we buy?
Yeah, one of the things he was worried about is because we're real small. I mean, at the time, it was just the two of us. Now our kids are working for us, but we didn't have tech support, a good way of tech support. And a lot of the USBs, there's a lot of back-end tech support that you need when the people plug it in, and it's not, I don't have the driver, or there's a driver update, or blah, blah, blah. And we don't really have that issue.
Yeah, USB. Amonero. Yeah, it's like when we just did SPDIF only, it was a lot easier because anything that had SPDIF, I mean, it's usually a standard that just works. You know, SPDIF, you plug it in from a CD player and it just works. Mm-hmm. USB, on the other hand, you know, we all know how that is. You plug it in your computer, now your computer's searching for drivers. It's doing weird stuff. It's clicking, it's blinking, making noise. And so at the time, you know, that was another part of USB. We knew we would have to support the PC community, and we really want to maintain a level of standards for our support. That's our big thing for our company. So we didn't want to sell people short. You know, we didn't want to throw USB in and then not be able to help them if, you know, it's acting funky or their PC. So once we got a little bit bigger and were able to get some staff, that's when we really, you know, went over. And again, Amonero had a really good web presence. So the company and their modules had a really good, you know, presence in the DIY community. So if people have issues with their PCs, a lot of them could just search the internet and it'll say, oh yeah, Amonero, maybe Amonero has some weird fault with some software or something. It's known, you know, it's
Gotcha.
not like a thing that we developed that we have to now support. And, you know, a lot of it was, like I said before, was, you know, we like the Amonero so much and just kind of the whole aura around it that it just was a solution for us to have USB on our product.
And if there was a problem, like we had somebody that couldn't get something to work, he could write to Dom, who develops and creates it, and say,
Right.
hey, this isn't working, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a fix for it, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
we'll put it
Oh,
out
yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very similar to how when people write in or call in, they get one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the Amonero. We write in, we get the dude that
Yeah.
does it, you know, right? So it's a good support.
You talked a little bit about clocking issues, and I know in Chicago we talked about SPDIF or optical and how it's not as susceptible to clocking issues. But take us through, like, what does a reclocker do? And
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how do you feel about like reclockers?
So think of clocking issues as you're trying to get the data. The kind of the really high level thing is you're trying to get the data to the DAC chip. So the DAC chip is what does everything, you know, and all of these DACs that you see in the world. I always say this, you know, despite the guys out there that are creating really esoteric chips, maybe they're creating them out of, you know, magical, crazy stuff, you know, the
unicorn tiers and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah. There are definitely those guys out there who are just, you know, insanely awesome. But you know, take your standard DAC chips like your ESS, your AKM. You know, so that chip has to get this data fed to it, and it needs to be clocked very uniformly. So the data, it can't be like, you know, spitting it out, stopping, spitting out, stopping. It has to be very uniform when that audio is coming across. If you start to get these hiccups and things, you can start to create like an audible click. You know how people say, oh man, this thing's ticking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, usually it's never like, if it's that bad, then you have a major problem. But if you just have these minor fluctuations in the clocking, you can get little bit of distortion, you know, a little bit of jitter issues. And so if you look at a pure sine wave, now that pure sine wave isn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not exactly what it was supposed to be digitally. So that's kind of the high level, you know, again, there's PhDs out there that are probably like, oh, there's so much more you can explain. But but you know, in a nutshell, you really want that data to be right, synchronized, perfect with the chip.
Mm-hmm.
So barring the chips that have reclocking built into them, which a lot of chips nowadays can do some magic, but you know, just take some of the, maybe even the older stuff, or just if you want to have a great signal feeding into the chip to begin with, you would use a reclocking chip. So the reclocking chip is going to take that SPDIF data and then kind of buffer it and then spit it back out as perfect as it can. So, you know, think of a clock, you know, tick, 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 tick. You don't want that that hand that's ticking around to be like jittery. You don't want it to go to 5 or, you know, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 20, like that. You don't want it to be kind of jittery. You want it to be perfect. So a lot of those reclockers that you'll see will take in that SPDIF data and then output a really perfectly synchronous stream.
Mm-hmm.
And what that's going to do is really relieve distortion and things like that. So, you know, they're very handy to have. You know, some DACs can utilize them. Some DACs have it all built in. It just depends.
But you were telling me that optical is actually done on the chip level on the DAC chip itself. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
not all. So not all DACs will. I can't speak for everybody's, but ours, we use a chip on there that will actually reclock the data, and it gives you a guaranteed timing. So
on
like
the
if you
USB and the optical, or just the optical?
yeah. So actually, Amonero does their own form, and so if you look at it, so in USB, that's going to go through the Amonero module, and that's going to have its own reclocking capabilities. Even with DSD, they're going to do all kinds of magic there. On the SPDIF side, or the optical / coaxial side, we have a chip on there that will take that data in. It'll take that signal right from that coaxial or toss link, and then it'll buffer it a little bit and then clock all that data directly to the DAC chip. So between the SPDIF chip and the DAC chip, it should be pretty damn clean. So so if on the outside, let's take your computer. So let's say your computer's kind of jittery or whatever, whatever you're using is SPDIF, this should really attenuate the jitter a lot. It'll take it out, and that'll clean it up, give you better distortion figures, better everything, which should in turn make the audio signal cleaner on the back end.
In a perfect world, if you're listening to audio out of a machine, are you using SPDIF or are you using USB?
I get that question all the time. So honestly, man, I'm probably going to get half the world's going to hate me for saying probably USB if you have a really good USB solution, based on how they can buffer the data and clock it back. But I've talked to guys even at Expona who had some of those really, really expensive DACs, and they do some serious magic with SPDIF. So, on our devices, they measure pretty much the same.
Okay.
So, it wasn't too much of a difference. But I've seen some devices where, USB is a lot better. So I would probably say, like, if you can go with USB, if they implemented it, right, then you may get a better clocking. And
I'm asking you though, if you're listening and you got the J2 and you're listening through your whatever it is, are you using USB or SPDIF?
Both.
Okay. Nice answer.
Yeah, no. Honestly, either or. We kind of designed it so we designed the entire DAC so there's no weaker point. So if you're using USB, you should be able to get the same quality.
At home, you use the SPDIF more, and here
that's actually true.
That's really
so I do say this, Randy. Honestly, I do say this. When customers ask if they have the option, a lot of times I do tell them to go to SPDIF, mainly because there's SPDIF links, like even on the motherboard and things like that, tend to have less issues, less weirdnesses. With USB, I've seen, you have 4 ports on the top of your PC. You plug in the DAC in one, and then you plug in some other crazy high-speed device, and now they're choking each other. Now it's like this one's, not making this one work right. And then, so my answer would be, if you can go to SPDIF on your machine at home. It's probably going to be easier. To save us headache. But when it comes to the quality of it, it won't matter on our DACs. That's my opinion.
So when you're doing it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You can add. So we've had people that do not get the USB, and then if they decide later that they want to, or their situation changes, they just send it back they pay for the USB and return shipping.
Right.
So they can always add it later with our stuff.
So as far as like when you design a DAC, I know you're taking measurements and stuff, but talk about like what you do with the analog output stage. How much of it is measurements? How much of it is, you kind of tuning things by ear?
Sure. So
with power supply, anything really.
Yeah, no problem. So generally, the way we do it, initially we thank God that it worked. We put it together and we're like, oh, thank you, this thing works. So that's the big high five. That's the champagne, is that, hey, it worked. After that, Usually we go to the ear and just, try to listen. Does it sound decent? I mean, believe me, we've made plenty of prototypes that just sound trashy, and it generally sounds trashy because we experimented with too many weird things, and we could probably tune those DACs to make them sound decent, but usually we go back to the drawing board and really kind of fix things if they really come out sounding bad. And then what I mean by sounding bad is sounding bad, like a bad set of headphones, you know what I mean? Or you have your hands over your ears and then put the headphones over those. Like, it's just a piece of garbage.
We've gotten into quite a few arguments during development because I'll listen to something and I hear things differently than he does. And if I'm not happy, I'll let him know.
Right. So, and usually, we'll let everybody listen to it. We try to keep it in a sense that, we know that everybody hears differently, so, if everybody's in a consensus that, yes, we like this, it sounds good, it sounds great. Generally, then we'll go over to the machine. So it's usually listening to it first, and then we go to the machine to kind of start to validate everything. Are we crazy? You always want to go to that, are we just crazy and it just sounds good, but really it's measuring terrible. We've had that happen.
And the opposite.
And the opposite.
Yeah, one of our, I think it was the J2, before the new release, it measured really well, and both of us were like,
didn't like it.
No, man, this is awful.
So, and it turns out, like, the thing is, you can go back and then look at certain frequency response measurements and see why. So like when we get to the point that it's like, okay, it sounds great, but it's measuring bad, or is measuring great and it sounds kind of funky. Generally, you can go to the APX and really start to see what's going on. That will generally tell you. You can look at the frequency response. I mean, there's just times where it's like, something's not right, and you look at it and it's just the diving on the back end, or there's this big hump for some reason, just weirdness. And then at that stage we start debugging the hardware. So a lot of it's just based on goofy experimentation that we've done that's created problems. It's just usually basic analog electronics at that point. For us, it's not super crazy stuff we're doing. It's just basic stuff where we're like, okay, we're overloading this op amp, or we're doing something weird. We need to cut it out, kind of step back, generally the machine is the end all before it goes out for us, and again, we use it as a debugging source. It's not that we're looking at the machine and we're like, okay, we have these record breaking A, B, or C numbers. It's just more of a, okay, we have the flat frequency response that we want, and we already like how it sounds. We're now tuning it for the machine. We're kind of just, fine tuning everything. And I'm talking fine tuning. And then we get to the point that it's like, okay, we like this, we like what we're doing, and we go. Now, you had mentioned power supplies. Generally, we work around using our switching, not our switching power supplies, the CUI. But we work around using switching power supplies. You can love us or hate us for using them, that's fine, but that's what, we've gotten really good results from them. The way we use them, we actually have usually have a switcher on board the board itself. So a lot of people who want to use analog, like full analog supplies, like
a transformer.
Yeah, you want to use like a big wall wart. That's what I was trying to think. That'll be the 12 volts DC. Generally, measurements wise, you won't really see much of a difference there. And it's just, and that's to the machine. But if people say they can hear the difference, then they can hear the difference. But at that stage of all of this, we usually just look at the machine for that, because again, we can't control what you hear. Everybody hears differently. I never want to say that because the machine says this, you should hear like that. No way. You hear what you hear. Right. So if you plug in this thing and you hear it that way, that's more power to you. Same with cables. We get those questions all the time. If you like cable A, B, or C, use it, man. Don't let me stop you.
Yeah. Have you ever
Yeah.
messed around with like toroidal transformers or anything?
Yeah. So currently we're deep into that for the newer amp that we're working on. We're deep into toroid. Like, it's so hard to say toroid.
You know, I have a hard time saying regularly. I have to say it real
Regular.
slow. Regularly.
But yes, we're deep into them right now, like deep in them and sourcing them and everything else. So yeah, but no, none of those, we don't use those transformers on the DAC. That's just more for amps for us.
I need to get one of those things that says on air and
Yeah,
hang it on the wall,
Yeah.
because we're real serious over here at Cheap Audio Man Studios. But didn't you tell me though that you went through like 5 or 6 different power supplies trying to get the right one on something?
Certification.
Yeah. So yes,
that was horrible.
Yes. So that was more for certification. So the power supply wasn't for audio. It was actually for certification. So you know, when, you know, I can't speak for how other companies handle that, but normally when you create a product, you have to go through CE certification or FCC, however you're going to decide to go down which route. And this was when we made our very first DAC. So, you know, our very first DAC was just noisy when it came to EMI in general. You know, there was a lot of learning there. So normally in companies I worked for, you know, back then, we had separate groups of people who did a lot of that stuff, the CE certificate. I mean, there was like an engineer who usually worked on the product after the design phase in order to get it to pass, you know, EMI and radiation things. So this time
radiation?
radiation, yeah, so emitted radiation, they call it.
Like beta, gamma, alpha radiation. You have like cobalt 60 sources in there?
Cobalt 60. So you know, they put your device in a big chamber and then it has a big antenna and runs all these tests, and you can see that, hey, you're emitting different frequencies. You have to, you know, for FCC and things like that, you can't emit these frequencies or, you know, you get trouble. So the funny thing was doing there's a test where you have to plug it into the wall and it tests emitted radiation going back out, back into the power grid, say. And every power supply, we brought like 5 or 6 with us, everyone failed except for one.
But that was the second time. The first time we got, so you have to pay, and it's not cheap. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. And Mom and Pa Kettle here go trucking up with their little DAC. All excited.
You guys are driving to gas stations for dinner. I know how it is.
We go in there.
I love Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's rules.
Now, if you guys don't know, Buc-ee's is this huge. It's a for the in simplistic terms, the most simplistic. It's a gas station, but it's so much more than a gas station. It is the greatest gas station on earth, and we have them here in Texas. And you guys, do you have them in Florida now?
Yeah, we just discovered it on the way home from Expona, and then there's one like the only one I think in Florida is like 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
And we were so excited that now all weekend we went Friday night, Saturday night, and tried to get our moms to go Sunday to eat there. They weren't.
So what is the Cheap Audio Man viewers want to know, what is your favorite thing to get at Buc-ee's?
I like the pork,
the
pulled pork sandwiches,
and
that roast beef. Remember that?
The cheese. They have
smoked,
like the smoked cheese with a toothpick in it is the great. Yeah. It's like something I could go to Publix and buy.
Yeah, but that apple. So there's an apple. It's like an egg roll, but it's an apple egg roll.
Oh, it's like a tortilla or something.
I don't know what is it. Oh, it's so. I got 5 of them. And
banana pudding.
Yeah, we get the banana pudding.
The drink. So they got like special Buc-ee's drinks that are like all these like fun drinks. You know, like
they have like they have a whole soda fountain that's just their sodas.
Yeah. He bought me a Buc-ee's blanket, and I was so excited.
That's very sweet, Gino.
The pulled pork, the best. I think.
Gas station gifts for the wife. Nice.
Dude, it's awesome.
I got one like 10 minutes away from me.
Do you really?
Yeah. I don't even go though. I mean, there's 2 places. I would stop on my way to Houston, and then I would stop on the way back. But they're building them everywhere now. I mean, they're really popping up around.
There were 2 in Georgia. So we came down, I think it was 75. and there might be like one before Atlanta, one after, or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah. So as we were coming home, we stopped at one in the evening, then stayed in a hotel, and then the next morning we were able to catch it for breakfast, which was awesome too. They
Yeah,
had like
all the
eggs,
breakfast is so
like,
yeah.
oh man, dude, I don't know how you don't go there like every day. I guess if it was like right down the street.
Yeah, we probably, it's like we never go to the
Yeah.
beach and we're
Well,
like,
now you got me wanting to go to Buc-ee's, so I may have to go check that out tonight. Okay,
are.
so we really got off topic.
okay,
Uh,
so we go and we drive to FCC and we fail, and it was thousands of dollars, and we were high-fiving on the way up, and then we were like, you know, crying in our
Oh yeah, I was like,
car
for
seat.
sure. I'm like, dude, we're passing this, like, yes, oh hell yeah, like this is gonna be a
I'm like,
breeze.
is there any chance? No, we got this. We weren't there
Yeah.
10 minutes, and the tail goes between the legs, and we walk
Yeah,
out.
he shows us on the screen. They got this big screen, and it's like all like there's a bar that goes across, and then there's like spikes, like which is emitted radiation from the device, and it's like these spikes at different frequencies, and he's like, "Yep, not gonna pass," you know, and I'm like, "Oh." And I'm like going back, all like, I don't even want to do this. We're arguing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it was
you're
awful.
making me do this.
It was like $7,000 that we didn't have.
mhm.
And
Yeah, it was a lot.
then we were like, well, when we try again, do we get like half price? He's like, no, it doesn't. This does not work like that.
And luckily, when we went back though, they did let us get like a half time.
They let us buy engineering
That
time
was
to
it,
make
and
sure.
yes,
So we
yeah,
had to
yeah.
pay actually extra to buy the engineering time before we spent the other
Right.
whatever, how many
So
thousands.
so
it
we were
was.
just going through power supplies, like, and the initial time it failed because of the device itself, and then the power supplies also. And then when we came back with like 6 power supplies, I
Right.
think it was, and we just kept plugging them in, fail.
Fail.
And I'm not naming any names, but these are like popular brand power supplies that you get from real vendors that have FCC class, whatever, 6 or whatever, FCC 6 on them, blah, 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 fail. So finally we got the CUI brand and passed with flying colors. And I actually later on had talked to a double E friend of mine, and he said he had similar problems with the similar brands. And he said, yeah, he just said CUI, you know, generally they're a really good brand for radiate emissions testing and things like that. So that's why we use those
Right.
all the time now.
Right. And
You know what I
they
mean?
even made us, because our first products came in just plexi. There was no aluminum included. They even made us do it where it was just the bare board sitting there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we still passed without anything. So without
Oh yeah,
any
on the
kind
internet, a lot of
tape.
times we would get people who are like, "You're never gonna pass FCC testing with all that. It's emitting all kinds of radiation." So purposely, recently, you took a picture
I
with
took
it
a
in the
ton of
chamber.
pictures and posted. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And when anybody orders anything from us overseas, they get all the paperwork and all the certs and everything the way it's done. So
But that's ultimately why we use those particular ones. You know, a lot of people ask us, you know, but that's why we use them. That room, like, I could have stayed there all night. It was like that's one of my favorite memories, was being in the Randy room with all those people. Like, I wish I could have like talked or not talked more, but got more out of that, like heard their stories.
Mm.
I mean, I wish it I wish, if they ever get together next time, I'm just gonna say, I want to hear your stories.
Listen, man, everybody is talking about like wanting to get together and have like a meetup, and like a lot of the guys are really cool, and they're like have all these ideas we could bring into trade show, and I'm like, whoa. But if we ever do get together, I totally want to fly you guys out just to hang out and talk to us, because they had the best time. They're still talking with you guys. It was really cool.
So cool. That was probably the highlight. I remember when we were leaving, I just remember saying to her, like, it was like we didn't have to get up the next morning. I was like, I could have stayed there.
actually, you said if it wasn't for you, I would have stayed
No.
there all day. That's what he said. We're walking
Well,
the
we
car.
did have Oreos, so I mean,
That was like the greatest. Him having Oreos, like, life doesn't get any better.
It was
than
like
that.
a campfire with your whole crew
The
sitting around
best.
crisscross applesauce eating Oreos. It was so funny.
It was the best.
I
It was
know.
the best. I mean,
There's
like,
no audio shows in Texas, so see, you can start something.
yeah, you should create an audio show in Texas.
I can't believe I thought there was one, but I can't believe that some
We don't know.
enterprising Texan hasn't done that already.
I know, you should be the enterprising Texan.
Listen,
Enterprise.
so what do you guys have coming up? As far as I know, you had briefly talked at Expona about a speaker amp, but any other products that you have coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so we have our AKM order in. So we're gonna have a J2 AKM version. So we've been working on that. So basically we took the JNOG design, we're making some changes to make it much closer to the J2 design.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to pick your DAC chip. So we're gonna still offer the 9026, we're gonna offer the Q2M, the 9038 Q2M, and then the 4493. So you just go in the site, pick your DAC chip, go from there. We're going to be offering the amplifier. That's going to be in the fall. We're trying
Towards
our
the
best.
end of the year.
Yeah,
probably.
we're trying our best to get that, to make that deadline. We set the deadline for ourselves. So right now we're going through part sourcing. I think every company is just fighting sourcing parts. So most of our delays, even on, in current orders, are part sourcing right now. It's just making sure we get enough parts.
Even shipping, but FedEx, we can't get shipping envelopes and boxes. It's insane right now how hard it is to get anything.
Yeah, it's just like what it is with everything is like you can get stuff, but it's just taking a lot longer. Just because I guess all the companies are, we're sharing all the limited supplies. So,
right. Yeah.
So just like every other company, we have to put in our orders and wait. So, if sales spike at different times, they're eating all the parts, and then, we have a little bit of a lull here and there, but that's our big thing. But yeah, so
yeah, we have a DAC and then an amp.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. And again, it was great to get to know you all better at Expona. It was great that you came over and talked to the folks from my Patreon. So is there anything that you want the audience to know about? Or I actually want to know, did you ever wear the hat forwards or go without?
I do. I wear it. I never wear it without. Since I was a tiny kid, I always had hats. I was just like a hat kid.
Yeah.
So it's really weird, like taking off.
What if you go to like a wedding or a funeral or
Italian restaurants? He'll take off his hat.
Italian restaurants, that's correct. And then like ritzy things.
What about an Italian funeral? Will you take your hat off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally, generally I try not to. It just feels weird. It's like not wearing a shirt or something, But I do wear it forward when I drive because it always hits the back of the seat.
Gotcha.
So, but no, I always have a hat on.
All right. So if you want to find Geshelli Labs, you guys are on Instagram, I know for sure, right?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter, but my account got locked out. So I'm trying to get it
You can
back.
blame your daughter on that one. How about TikTok? Are you guys on TikTok?
Yes, there is a Geshelli TikTok that
you should put your daughter to work doing all of your social media stuff.
well, we tried, and that's why I said we're on TikTok, but because I limit what she's allowed to post, she gets mad and then stops doing it for a while. So there are Sherry approved videos on TikTok that don't necessarily match what she wants to do, but it's what will approve her.
Yes,
I got you. Well, I can't imagine what it's like working with your whole family. It's got to be a lot of fun.
She is fun. And then we have a new website coming up.
Yes, soon.
Any time now. And what's really cool about it is, in the world will love this, that has to deal with me sending pictures of what things look like with the different colors and plates. He's rendered everything so you can pick like a white case and then pick one of our plates, and you can actually see it like you do at a car dealership looking at the car. So it's going to be pretty cool.
You can make that combo right there.
Exactly.
As much as you want.
Yeah, he did a really good job on it. So that's coming.
Yeah, we're basically in the debugging stages of the website, just getting everything tied up, just all the little things. But it'll be out soon.
All right. Well, thank you again. And Geshelli is located in Florida, right here in the US of A, right close to Cape Canaveral.
Yeah.
About 45 minutes, not even 35 minutes.
About 40 minutes south of NASA.
Yeah. Is your dog big enough that it could get eaten by an alligator, or is the alligator going to
There's
see
an
it?
alligator outside. I took pictures of it today, right over the parking lot in the gutter. There is an
How big was
alligator
it?
there. It's no, I don't think it's very big, but
It's
there's
bigger
one
than
on
that.
the other
I
side.
think it was probably about a 4 or 5 footer.
Well, that's small compared to, you
Yeah.
should see the one
Oh.
there. There's one like
So
8 feet.
the answer is this: yeah, no dog is
Safe.
yeah, no dog. I mean, these are like we've many of times seen gigantic, like alligators bigger than this table, easy,
Mhm.
like just roaming around. I mean, we've seen them on golf courses, like
Yeah.
just walking across.
Yeah, you see them on the side of the
fairway.
road hit like you do deer in
Yeah.
where other, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your Floridian followers know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that and the armadillos.
Armadillos for some reason.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have. Yeah, I remember this.
Billions
All
of
right.
them.
Well, be safe from the alligators and armadillos, and I appreciate everything you're doing. And we will talk to you next time.